One battle, one day, that reshaped the fate of entire civilizations. This is the story of the Battle of Gaugamela, where empires clashed and history was rewritten. Picture this. The year is 331 BC, a vast plain stretching out as far as the eye can see, with the fate of two mighty empires hanging in the balance. On one side, a young king with an unbreakable will. On the other, the ancient and powerful Persian Empire, commanded by a ruler fighting for his very throne. This was more than just a battle. It was the moment the ancient world would never forget. It was the turning point where empires clashed and one of them crumbled. The ancient world had never seen a king quite like Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BC in Macedonia, Alexander was a prodigy, a warrior king who rose to power at the young age of 20. By 331 BC, he had already carved out an empire that stretched from Greece to Egypt and into Persia. But the greatest challenge of his life lay ahead: the mighty Persian Empire, the largest empire in the world at that time. The Persian Empire, under the command of King Darius III, stretched from modern-day Turkey all the way to India. It was a vast and powerful empire, rich in resources, with one of the most formidable armies ever assembled. Darius himself was a skilled ruler, but he faced a challenge he had never expected: Alexander's sheer brilliance, drive, and unconventional warfare strategies. The stage was set for the Battle of Gaugamela, a decisive confrontation that would take place on the plains near modern-day Iraq. Darius had over 100,000 soldiers, war elephants, chariots, and more, while Alexander's army was a mere fraction of that. His forces numbered around 40,000, outnumbered, outgunned, and facing one of the largest armies the world had ever seen. It seemed an impossible task, but Alexander had something Darius didn't: a revolutionary understanding of battlefield strategy. The day of the battle arrived. As the Persian army advanced on the plain, their war elephants thundered across the earth, and their chariots lined up, ready to charge. The sheer size and might of Darius's forces were terrifying. The Persian king had placed his soldiers in a traditional formation, expecting to overwhelm the Macedonians with sheer numbers. But Alexander had already thought several steps ahead. Instead of meeting the Persian army head-on, as Darius expected, Alexander used his tactical genius to his advantage. He studied the terrain and used it to break up the enemy's formation. Alexander's army was known for its speed and mobility. They didn't fight in traditional formations. They were swift, unpredictable, and always in motion. His cavalry, led by his trusted general Parmenion, struck from unexpected angles, throwing the Persian lines into disarray. The Persian chariots charged, their blades aimed at the Macedonian soldiers. But Alexander had planned for this. His forces lured the chariots into a trap, using their mobility to outflank them and take down the horses with deadly precision. At the same time, his cavalry struck deep into the Persian lines, targeting key positions in the enemy's army. The Persian soldiers, once confident in their numbers, were now unsure of where the threat would come from next. The battle became a brutal, chaotic clash of steel. The sounds of war echoed across the plain, the cries of the injured, the pounding of hooves, the clang of swords. Yet in the chaos, one thing remained clear: Alexander's forces were winning. They were smaller, but they were faster, smarter, and more decisive. As the sun began to set over the plains of Gaugamela, the tide of battle turned in Alexander's favor. The Persian army was in retreat, and King Darius, once the proud ruler of a vast empire, was faced with a critical decision. The Persian forces had been broken, and their morale shattered. Darius, seeing the collapse of his army, made a fateful decision. He fled the battlefield. His flight was symbolic of the collapse of the Persian Empire's power. Darius, the king who had commanded a massive army, abandoned his soldiers in their greatest hour of need. The once mighty Persian Empire crumbled, and the conqueror who had set out to defeat Alexander found himself fleeing for his life. But it wasn't just a military victory for Alexander. This battle was the beginning of a new era. With the defeat of Darius, the Persian Empire lost its grip on the ancient world. Alexander's victory at Gaugamela opened the door for Greek culture, science, and ideas to spread across Asia. It was a turning point that marked the rise of Hellenistic civilization, a period of cultural exchange, innovation, and expansion. As the battle came to a close, Alexander stood victorious. His army had faced overwhelming odds, yet they had triumphed. The legacy of his strategy, his leadership, and his unbreakable resolve would echo through history. The Battle of Gaugamela was more than just a military victory. It was the moment that reshaped the ancient world. It demonstrated how leadership, strategy, and sheer willpower could topple even the mightiest of empires. Alexander the Great, though outnumbered and outgunned, had proven that victory wasn't just about numbers. It was about vision, strategy, and the courage to face overwhelming odds. For the Persian Empire, the battle marked the beginning of its decline. Darius III's reign ended in failure, and the Persian Empire would never fully recover. For Alexander, Gaugamela was the final step in his journey to conquer the known world. It wasn't just a battle, it was the defining moment that secured his place in history as one of the greatest military tacticians of all time. This victory set the stage for Alexander to continue his conquest, stretching his empire all the way to India. It also ensured that Greek culture, philosophy, and ideas would spread far beyond the borders of Greece, influencing civilizations for centuries to come. Subscribe to Legacy Thread, where history's defining moments come alive. Because some battles echo through time, Alexander's victory at Gaugamela changed the course of history, and its impact is still felt to this day.